The Enchanted Farewell. Christopher Robin and Pooh's last adventure. Once upon a quiet day in the Hundred Acre Wood, the animals noticed that something was changing. They couldn't quite say what it was, but they could feel it in the air. Christopher Robin was going away. Nobody knew why, nobody knew where, and nobody even knew how they knew, but everyone understood that this moment had finally come. Even the smallest of all, one of Rabbit's friends and relations who thought he'd once seen Christopher Robin's foot but couldn't be sure, felt that things were going to be different. Late and early, two other friends and relations exchanged worried glances. "Well, Early," said Late. "Well, Late," replied Early. But neither had an answer, and it seemed no good waiting for one. Rabbit, who could always be counted on to take action, decided they should all do something about this feeling. So, he scribbled out a notice that read, "Notice a meeting of everybody will meet at the house at Pooh Corner to pass a resolution by order, keep to the left signed, Rabbit." Rabbit had to write the notice several times before he felt the resolution looked right. Then, he carried it to each of his friends, reading it aloud. One by one, they all agreed to come. That afternoon, as everyone made their way to Eeyore's gloomy corner of the forest, Eeyore watched from a distance. "Well, this is a surprise," he mumbled as he saw them walking up. "Am I invited too?" he asked with his usual grumpy charm. "Don't mind Eeyore," Rabbit whispered to Pooh. "I told him all about it this morning." Everyone said, "How do you do?" to Eeyore, and Eeyore replied, "I don't, not to notice," before they all sat down. The moment they were seated, Rabbit stood up. "We all know why we're here," Rabbit began. "I've asked my good friend Eeyore to propose the resolution." "That's me," Eeyore grumbled as he stood up slowly. "Don't bustle me." He pulled a piece of paper from behind his ear and coughed importantly. "Nobody knows about this," he said. "This is a surprise." He cleared his throat and continued, "Before I begin, or should I say, before I end, I have a piece of poetry to read. Hitherto," he added grandly, "a long word meaning, you'll see in a moment. All the poetry in the forest has been written by Pooh, a bear with a pleasing manner but a startling lack of brain." Everyone shifted in their seats, eager to hear Eeyore's poem. "This one," Eeyore said dramatically, "was written by me. I call it Poem." The animals leaned in. "Christopher Robin is going, at least I think he is. Where? Nobody knows. But he is going, he goes. Do we care? We do, very much. I haven't got a rhyme for that is in the second line yet. Bother. Now I haven't got a rhyme for bother. Bother. Those two bothers will have to rhyme with each other. Boother." Eeyore paused to look at the crowd, who were listening closely. "The fact is, this is more difficult than I thought. I ought to begin again, but it is easier to stop." He finished with a sigh. "Christopher Robin, goodbye. And all your friends send, well, anyhow, we send our love. And if anyone wants to clap," Eeyore said after a long pause, "now is the time." Everyone clapped. Eeyore's poem, though clumsy, was deeply moving. "Thank you," Eeyore said modestly. "Unexpected and gratifying, if a little lacking in smack." "It's much better than mine," said Pooh, sincerely impressed. "Well, it was meant to be," Eeyore replied, sitting down. With that, Rabbit declared that everyone should sign the resolution, and they did. One by one, they scribbled their names: Pooh, Piglet, WL, Eeyore, Rabbit, Kanga, Blot, and Smudge. They all walked together to Christopher Robin's house. When they arrived, Christopher Robin greeted them with a warm, "Hello, everybody." But the air felt heavy with a sort of sadness that no one wanted to mention. It was a goodbye, though no one dared to say the word. Eeyore was nudged to the front to deliver the resolution. He shifted uncomfortably and began, "Christopher Robin, we've come to say, to give you, well, it's written by, oh, we all know why we're here. To put it simply, this is what it is." Eeyore, feeling overwhelmed by the moment, grumbled that there wasn't enough space with everyone crowding around, and he huffed off, leaving the others feeling unsure of what to do next. Christopher Robin took the piece of paper, read it, and smiled. "It's a comforting sort of thing to have," he said quietly. He folded the paper and placed it in his pocket. "Come on, Pooh," Christopher Robin said, heading off down the path. "Where are we going?" asked Pooh, hurrying to keep up. "Nowhere," said Christopher Robin. So they walked together, saying little but feeling everything. After a while, Christopher Robin broke the silence. "Pooh, what do you like doing best in the world?" Pooh thought for a long moment. Eating honey was wonderful, but there was a moment just before eating it, when you knew it was about to happen, and that moment was even better. But when he thought about it more, being with Christopher Robin and Piglet was the best of all. "What I like best," Pooh said thoughtfully, "is you and me and Piglet going on adventures. And then you say, 'What about a little something?' And we sit together while birds sing, and the day feels hummy." Christopher Robin smiled. "I like that too," he said. "But what I like best is doing nothing." "Nothing?" Pooh asked, confused. "It's when people ask what you're doing and you say, 'Oh, nothing,' and then you go and do it," Christopher Robin explained. "Oh," said Pooh, still not quite sure. "It means just going along, listening to the quiet things and not bothering." They kept walking until they came to a very special place, an enchanted spot on the top of the forest called Galleon's Lap. It was a circle of 60-something trees, though no one could ever count if there were 63 or 64. The grass here was smooth and soft, unlike anywhere else in the forest, and from this spot, you could see the whole world stretching out to the sky. Christopher Robin sat down, and Pooh sat next to him. Together, they looked out at the world. Christopher Robin started talking about things like kings and queens and factors and how to make a suction pump and knights and what came from Brazil. Pooh listened carefully, even though he didn't understand most of it. He liked hearing Christopher Robin talk. After a while, they fell into a peaceful silence. Then Pooh, thinking hard, asked, "Christopher Robin, is it a very grand thing to be a knight?" Christopher Robin smiled. "Not as grand as being a king," he said, "but grander than factors." "Could a bear be one?" "Of course," Christopher Robin said, and with a stick, he tapped Pooh on the shoulder. "Rise, Sir Pooh the Bear, most faithful of all my knights." Pooh beamed. "Thank you," he said, feeling very proud. They sat together for a while longer, until Christopher Robin said quietly, "Pooh, I'm not going to do nothing anymore." Pooh was puzzled. "Never again?" "Well, not as much. They don't let you." Pooh didn't know who they were, but he could sense a change coming. "Pooh," Christopher Robin continued, "will you come up here sometimes, even when I'm not doing nothing?" "Just me?" asked Pooh. "Yes, just you." "And will you be here too?" "Yes, Pooh. I'll always be here." "That's good," said Pooh. Christopher Robin reached for Pooh's paw. "Pooh, promise you won't ever forget about me, even when I'm 100. Pooh nodded. "I promise." They stayed there, hand in paw, feeling the quiet around them, until Christopher Robin finally said, "Come on, Pooh, let's go." "Where?" asked Pooh. "Anywhere," Christopher Robin replied with a smile. And so they walked off together, hand in hand. But wherever they went, and whatever happened, in that enchanted place on top of the forest, a little boy and his bear would always be playing.